Ramadan is, I think, will be stressful for me. You have to fast. Okay? So if you look at some of the items, the meaning can change depending on your relationship with your wife, or retirement, or pregnancy. Pregnancy can be stressful, but it can be very meaningful. And so having a score of 300 seems objective, but it is not very predictive. Okay? So these type of instrument sounds objective, but they're problematic. So let's understand our biology. Okay, so this is a brief understanding of genetics and how the brain works. So doctors, psychiatrists think we are influenced by our biology. So do you know how many genes we have? Human beings have on average 20,000 to 25,000 genes. So if you take a genetic test, tomorrow you can find out who's your brother, who's your uncle, and the relatives are. So we don't have many genes. And one of the things is called epigenetics. People believe that you're born intelligent, you're born singer, or you're born athlete because you have good genes. Is this true? We are born with 20 to 25,000 genes, but the problem is that the genes have to be turned on, okay, like a radio. And you turn on this gene when you have experiences, okay? When you have supportive family members, and you live in a good environment. But when you experience stress, the gene turns off. Okay? And also, you can turn on the volume. So if you have a lot of positive experiences, then the volume increases. So what does it mean? Gene does not determine your health. Gene does not determine how you will live. It provides the basic resources. And so what you need to do is to have positive experiences and supportive environment so the genes will turn on and you'll be happy and you'll be productive. On the other hand, if you are abused or you smoke or you drink, no wonder Prophet Muhammad said, don't drink. Drinking alcohol is bad for your health. It damages your brain. Okay? So I don't know why people want to damage their brain. Maybe because they're not smart. So drinking, smoking, and what causes the genes to turn off? Loneliness, social isolation. If you're by yourself, then the genes turn off. Okay? So epigenetics means that genes can express itself when you grew up in a supportive environment. So this is very important for young children, okay, in the brain development. Okay? So when you have a very positive community, very supportive parents, the genes turn on and the brains develop. When you are isolated, live alone, raised by chimpanzees or dogs, then the genes do not turn on. So epigenetics have a tremendous impact in your life. So this is particularly important in terms of brain development. So when you're 10 and you become old, you have the same genes. But age of 40, you turn on these genes. That influences your mental health. And it is also based on diet, what you eat. And your gender, your ethnicity, your amount of sleep you get, and amount of exercise. So you have to eat healthy, you have to sleep 8 hours, and you have to have good relationship to have healthy genes. It's like a plant. If you don't water it, you don't take care of it, it dies. Your body, your genes is the same. So how does your brain work? Do you know how to use your brain? To be smart, to be creative. It's the most important part of the brain. And so the research was done in psychology. You put an electrode in your brain, and if your hand moves, you say, oh, that's the hand part. And if you put an electrode and you begin to talk, that area is for speaking. So traditionally, they believe that different parts are responsible for different functions. And the right brain people is more visual, and left brain people is more social. We used to say in psychology, left brain personality. And the answer is wrong. Okay. That's not. That's wrong. Okay. Why? Because it's not like hands or feet. Brain consists of 100 billion neurons, the cells, and they need to be connected. Okay? 100 trillion connection. And like genes, our experience connect the neurons. And this is called neuroplasticity. So now, rather than sticking electrodes, we have functional magnetic resonance image. We can take pictures of the brain of the energy that is used. So you can see when you hear a word, it's different from seeing the word. Seeing in the word is occipital lobe, or thinking about the word is prefrontal lobe, right? So now we can take pictures of the brain and see which part of the brain works. Okay? And this is the picture of a depressed person and not depressed. You notice the depressed person is not using his brain. Okay? It's not being stimulated. Okay? It's closed down. And it's using the old part of the brain based on emotion and fear, where not depressed person is using other parts of the brain. So it's not which part is responsible, it's the connection that is responsible. And I've been working with a neurobiologist. He said, human brain is a social construction. It's a biological entity, but it is constructed socially. So human beings can unfold their potential in a supportive community where individuals can engage with each other and inspire them to contribute. Positive family environment communities provide experience for children to connect the brain cells in a positive way. If you have negative and abusive family, the negative connections are created. That's how you explain terrorism. People are disengaged. They're angry. And so they create a community of anger. Versus a positive community is supportive, caring, and sharing. And so traditional view is that each brain cells operate separately. Now we know that they're connected. Experiences connect and trigger a network. So learning and experience shape how neurons in the brain connect with one another. In step one, the neurons are unconnected. In step two, learning requires like walking, talking, driving, connection. But once you learn how to drive, after a year, it becomes more efficient. After 10 years, you don't have to think. And it's called a superhighway. Or speaking English, after you learn it, comes automatically. So you use less energy to perform more effectively. Okay? So how do you use your brain? You have to use it. You have to practice. Like musician, you have to practice. Like athlete, you have to practice. In academia, you have to write. You have to do statistical analysis. You have to read. And in every sport, no pain, no gain. I'm sorry. There is no easy way. Why is there pain? Because the brain cells have never been connected before. Now you have to connect them. And it takes a lot of energy to connect them. So when you try to learn English, you have a headache. I don't know what it means. Okay? It is very frustrating. But once you understand, that means your brain cells are connected. You say, okay. Now I understand. It becomes easy. Okay? So more you use it, better it becomes. It creates a circuit. Okay? And it becomes more efficient. Like smartphone, when you first try to use it, it's very difficult. Now you can use it. I even riding a motorcycle using a smartphone. Okay? So more you use it, more efficient it becomes, and less energy it uses. And this is also related to research. So connectivity pattern influence how quickly and efficiently the brain processes new information. So psychology focuses on cognition, and people believe cognition and emotions are separate. But it's not. Because whenever there's a sensation that goes to the brain, feelings and emotions are attached. So whenever there's information, then emotions are attached. So cognitions, our emotions are connected in the limbic system of our brain to our memory and to our meaning. So the notion we can be objective is false. We cannot be, because everything has meaning and everything has value. So when a child is born, the child is born with a body with 100 billion neurons. It's not connected. And through their experience, okay, walking, talking, they develop a mindset. They use only 10% of the brain. Only 10% gets connected. But the most important thing are the parents. That stimulates, baby talks, feed, play. In psychology, which theory examines the role of parents? Does Piaget examine parents? Behaviorism? Cognitive psychology? Is there any theory that looks at the role of parents? This is a problem. The most important person in a child's life is a parent. They're helpless for the first 2 years. Okay? And you have to take care of them for the first 16 years. Sometimes now you have to take care of them 30 years because they refuse to get married and they want to stay home. Okay? It's a joke, but anyway. So, parents are the most important in child's development. In psychological theory, where are the parents? In Freudian theory, parents are abusive. They want to castrate you. So you have Oedipus conflict. Or women, they realize they don't have a penis, and they blame their mother for not having a penis, and they have an Electra complex. Does this make sense to you? It's ridiculous. And he doesn't have evidence that supports that. So American psychology, parents do not exist. Piaget, where are the parents? Well, he was the experimenter. He observed his children as a parent and as a researcher. And so there's cognitive development, but no parents. Holberg's moral development, strictly cognitive, no emotion. So if you accept American theory, you're accepting that parents do not exist. And parents do not play any role in child development. Is that so? You can just leave your kids just like a dog outside and they'll grow up? Does it make sense? Okay. So you have to think about these relationships. So human behavior, we're not controlled by instinct like animals. We modify our instincts through cognition. You know what is acceptable. You cannot have sex anywhere with anyone, okay? Even though you may want to. Okay? We have a thing called marriage, family, and we have emotion. Having sex with someone you hate is very different from someone you love. Okay? Someone you hate is called a rape. Okay? Someone you love, it can be very meaningful. So we control our behavior, and that leads to an outcome, positive or negative, that influences our cognitions, and our cognitions, our emotions are connected. They're not separated. So cognitive psychology in North America shows that people are not rational. And this is Kahneman, he won the Nobel Prize. When people make decisions, they make irrational decisions. You know why? Because of emotions. Okay, taking care of someone, helping a stranger is not rational. Why? It's called empathy. And psychology did not study empathy and how it influences behavior. So can you be totally objective? Totally ends? No. Psychologists claim that results are objective, but it's not. Because all information have meaning and all information have emotion. That's why psychological theory do not work in the real world setting. And this is the limbic system, the oldest part of the body that is at the center. So it's like my thumb, okay? It's the oldest part of the body. And my fingers, this is the prefrontal lobe. Okay? So limbic system records information outside the body and passes through our memory and prefrontal lobe. and it records information and emotion. And so limbic area has 5 processes. And it's not 200 million years ago, 200,000 years ago, okay? We needed each other to survive. And the limbic area is important for having a relationship with others that is close, meaningful. So the process is appraisal. What is important? Motivation, and also memory system in terms of meaning and value, and emotion and affective states, and attachment relationship. When children are stressed and they're crying, who do they go to? Their mother, their grandmother, and they develop attachment figures. And in the center is the oldest part of the brain called the limbic system. In the front, it's called prefrontal cortex. Okay? This is the executive part of the brain that makes decisions. That helps you to plan, that helps you to execute. And also, this is where your empathy lies. The middle prefrontal cortex has 9 functions. It regulates your body, heart. It provides attuned communication. You feel connected or you're not. It balances your emotion. So you're not too hyper or too relaxed. It distinguishes fear from what is not. It helps to calm us down. It provides a pause before you act. We don't behave instinctively, we think. And you consider every option. And so you can be adaptive. It provides insight in terms of self-knowing awareness, in terms of the past to the present, and what you want to do in the future. And this is a place where empathy actually takes place. It creates a map in your mind and to know what other people are feeling and thinking. And this is the basis of morality. Psychology thought we did not have morality. Yes, this is the area where morality takes place. The spiritual aspect takes place. You look at the larger social goods. And this is the area in which intuition actually takes place. So, what is the difference between chimpanzees and human beings? One is our opiate brain descended 2 centimeters, and human beings can make 20 different thousand sounds. And as a result, we can communicate. But chimpanzees can only make 15 screeching sounds. And they cannot have language. We need at least 10,000 different sounds. So this researcher spent 20 years teaching kanji how to communicate using sign language. So I want water. Give me banana. So using lexigram, they can point and communicate. And she can learn around 50 symbols. But there's a problem. She cannot teach her children, brothers and sisters, lexigram. And she cannot record what she learned in a book or in painting. So when kanji dies, everything she learned evaporates. So what is culture? Culture is information we record outside our body through music, through art. And children learn through art or through music, and their brain is stimulated. Since we can record information outside our body, many descendants can use it. So chimpanzee, they can learn, innovate, but when they die, all this information disappears. So chimpanzees have not changed in past 2.6 million years. Human beings have changed dramatically. And it is not the hardware, but it's the software, information that is stored outside the body. Genetics is an information code that's transmitted biologically. Culture is information that is stored outside the body, like language, like Quran. What if you did not have Quran? How would you teach? For example, what if you did not have books or computer? And this is the difference between humans and chimpanzee. And the stress loop, what is stress? The stimulation is something you cannot handle, you cannot manage, and you cannot control. So emotionally, you react negatively. Your body cannot adjust. There is a positive called curiosity. So it's a challenge, and children are very curious. They're willing to try new food, do new things, and they approach their play with joy and happiness. And once they succeed, they develop their self-confidence, and they raise their positive expectations, and they want to play more. They want to do something. And so stress is something that you cannot manage. Happiness is being engaged in something new, something different. And by acquiring this knowledge, your brain sends dopamine, serotonin to make you feel happy. So when you engage in new things and when you're able to achieve, you feel happy. So people who lift weight, they experience a lot of pain. If you run 40 kilometers, you experience a lot of pain. But if you continue, or after you exercise, your body secretes endorphins, okay, to overcome the pain. So you feel refreshed. And a lot of athletes get addicted to the endorphins, the pleasure of overcoming the pain. Same thing with studying or doing research. It is a lot of pain. But if you keep going, your brain will secrete endorphin. And when you learn something, you will feel happy because you have dopamine and serotonin that makes you feel good. And then there's the fourth hormone, oxytocin. When you are with people that you know and you like, it secretes happiness hormone. So there are 4 happiness hormones. Dopamine, that gives you immediate satisfaction. Serotonin, that gives long-term satisfaction. Oxytocin, that gives happiness in relationship. And endorphin, that helps you to overcome the pain. Okay? So when you are in Ramadan, do you feel pain or do you feel pleasure? Pleasure. Both. Because when you meditate and restrain yourself, initially it's very difficult. But when you finish, you feel refreshed. Okay? So that's why in Islam, Quran forces you to have Ramadan. Otherwise, you will never choose to do so. So that contradicts Erickson's hierarchy of needs. Erickson said you have to satisfy your needs. Islam said no. If you satisfy your needs, you'll become like animals. Eat, sleep, and have sex. And that's it, right? You have to control your physical needs, social needs, and get spiritually connected. Okay? And this is also true in Buddhism. And this is why you meditate. Not become like animal, feed yourself, sleep, and driven by instinct. Look at the higher importance of goals, connectedness, and community. And so each person have certain development potential, neurobiology, psychology, and also in business. This potential cannot be realized alone without the support and co-creation of others. Family, your parents, your children, your siblings, your friends, your colleagues. And the crucial prerequisite in unfolding one's potential is to meet each other as subjects rather than treat them as objects, like a woman, like elderly, like disabled. So one of the problems we have in psychology, we provide labeling, and we think that explains something, like black, race, white, or yellow. It doesn't explain something. Like personality test. You fill out a personality and you're labeled as extroversion, or open, or conscientious. So does it explain anything? It just summarizes the responses that you gave. So you categorize. Categorizing is not explaining. It's just organizing. So why did you respond in a particular way? Positivity, like yesterday we talked about positivity and flourishing humanity. And it's wonderful if you can be positive. But how can you develop this positive outlook? That needs to be explained. And this can happen if you are living in a supportive environment, if you have a goal that you can attain, and you treat each other with dignity. If you look at it very carefully, this is what Quran and Islam teaches. Don't treat other people as objects. Treat them with respect and dignity. Okay? And it is important to explore the hidden potential of individuals, communities, and organizations to systematically demonstrate and work together on a concrete projects, and so that they can develop new capabilities. So one of the reasons why I'm here is, Pak Agung said, we want to do research, we want to publish, we want to create Scopus Journal. And I said, have you ever done it before? No. Do you know anyone who has done it before? No. So I said, why don't we do it together? Okay. Because I created a journal, International Asian Journal of Social Psychology. It's Scopus and SSIC listed. I was a founding editor. I have colleagues. I have 200 articles that I published. I don't need any more. They don't reward me for publishing more. So I travel around the world, and I have colleagues around the world who are editors, associate editors, and I propose special issues. I invite my colleagues to publish. So I have these resources in terms of understanding international community, how to prepare article for publication. I asked this question, okay? You're in love, and you want to write a love letter. And you write a beautiful love letter to your girlfriend or boyfriend, okay? And you send it off, and she never reads it. How would you feel? You spend months writing this beautiful letter, and she doesn't read it, or he doesn't read it. So you spend years publishing an article. No one reads it, and no one cites it. The article does not exist, right? So in Indonesia, the government wants you to publish in Scopus listed journal. You publish it. Will anyone read it or cite it? Even in top tier journal of Personality and Social Psychology, 90% of the articles are never cited. Even if you publish, if it's not read or cited, you have no impact. It's like a love letter that no one reads. It doesn't exist. And what will happen? Your heart will be broken. You spent 3 years publishing this article and no one cares. So why should they read your article? If you say, oh, Indonesians are similar to Americans, we found similar results. Why should they cite your article when they can cite a famous American like Kahneman who won the Nobel Prize? The only way you can get people to read your article, tell Americans you're wrong. Get them angry. What do you mean I'm wrong? Because you have the wrong assumption. Here's my data. And they will cite your article to show why you're wrong, why it's not logical. So the best way to get citation is get Americans mad as hell. Okay? Get them riled up. We're different from you. We have a different culture. And we have a different tradition. And your theory cannot explain. Your theory is not universal. We're different. That's one strategy. But if Indonesian is the only country that is different, they'll ignore you. You're an exception. However, if Malaysia and Korea, we find similar result that contradicts USA or even Japan, they say, wow, maybe there's something wrong with our theory. Okay? And so it's important. And now, everybody's talking about Sinta 1. Is Sinta 1 heaven? It's the gateway to heaven. Once you read Sinta 1, you'll be heaven. Okay? Scopus listed. Well, it's not. Because even if you publish in Sinta 1 or Scopus, what if no one reads it? The more difficult question is, even it's okay if it's published, even no one reads it or cites it. But imagine you don't have a lover. You write this love letter, but you don't have a lover. You don't know who it is. She's out there somewhere. Can you write a love letter to someone in general. You don't know the person. So when you publish an article, do you know who will read your article? So you're writing a love letter without having a lover, without having a person that you love. Can you write such a thing? I don't know how Indonesians write articles. Who are you writing it to? To yourself? To your colleagues? And you publish in English? Your colleagues can read in Bahasa. You want Americans and Europeans to read it. But do you know them? Will they read it? Will they be impressed? That's a problem. You don't know the audience. So when you write an article, you have to know the audience. The problem is, if you go to Europe or United States to your PhD, I used to go to 6 conferences a year, meet all of my colleagues. And these are the reviewers who will review my article to accept or reject. So I know what they want. Okay? But if you prepare your article, and if you don't know your audience, how will you publish? That's the second problem. So that's why it's important to have conferences. Invite international colleagues to make presentations. You will notice they have a different style. They have a different way of presenting. And they have different analysis. Okay. And also, get them to submit an article to your international journal. And get them to be in the editorial board. Develop a relationship with them. Okay. And the problem I see in Indonesia, every university is competing with one another. And government does not give any resources. And each university is very poor. And the dean said, no more money. Do all these things, lecture, 5 courses, research. Now you have to do the accreditation form, which is driving you crazy, right? It will get worse next year, every year since, because Indonesia has to compete. And the problem is, it's the wrong strategy. Ministry of Education has no idea about publication. The regulations, it doesn't make any sense. They're just imitating, okay? And so you have to develop a different strategy. All the faculty members have to work together to publish your own Sinta One journal so you can include your own article in your colleagues. But that's not enough. Those people who are interested in indigenous and cultural psychology, in Indonesia, you have to publish 12 Scopus list journals from developmental, social, organizational, health, similar to APA. That way, you'll have a lot of people contributing articles. And if you have 12 journals, then the Americans and the Europeans would be interested. It's called, in business, economies of scale. If you have nasi goreng stalls all over Malioboro, same price, same taste, why would they go to? You have to have a shopping mall. So you need to collaborate. Indonesians have to collaborate with different areas, developmental, social, industrial, and health. And pull the resources together. If you have your own Sinta One journal, then it'll be a lot easier to publish. Then it will be a lot easier to get the recognitions and resources. Okay? So most universities do not have Sinta One, not UGM, not UMPAT, not UI. And the question is, can UIN create something? Well, it's up to you in terms of your commitment. Are you willing to work together? And are you willing to pull the resources together? So the reason why I'm doing this, I don't want Indonesia to become like Korea and Japan. Have you heard of any Korean psychologist or Japanese psychologists? Do you know any of their publication or research? And they spend billions of dollars in terms of research. They do research that simply imitates American psychology. Why would you read their article or cite them? So you want to do something creative. You need to be indigenous in terms of context, and also you have to examine the content. So the reason I'm presenting results about genetics and biology is American psychologists do not know about biology. Their biology is 100 years old. and it's not scientific. It has been disproven. So people thought in psychology, mindfulness is a waste of time because you're not doing anything. There's no behavior. But if you take MRI, we discover you change the structure and the process of your brain. It lowers your blood pressure, improves your cognition, decreases emotional reactivity, increases empathy, manages chronic pain, boosts immunity, support working memory, improve quality of sleep, restored childlike curiosity, improve relationship, reduce stress. If you meditate properly during Ramadan, you'll have this benefit. If you did not meditate properly and thought this is pain and this is ridiculous, and after the evening and you binge eat because you've been starved, you don't get this benefit. So Prophet Muhammad wanted you to get these benefits. Ramadan. Yes. And why do you pray 5 times a day? Yes. Okay. In terms of control your animal instinct. Be spiritually connected. Psychology tells you to be connected to your animal instinct. So why are you learning psychology that is opposite to Islam? That is opposite to human dignity. So stress has been modified by Lazarus and Folkman in terms of Shelley. And they say stress, the most important thing is appraisal. So driving in Korea is very comfortable for me, but if I have to drive in Indonesia, I will go crazier because it's a very different environment. So what do I praise? So I enjoy driving, but not in Indonesia with all the motorcycle. Okay? So something can be pleasurable or it could be stressful. Speaking in English is natural. But if you ask me to speak in Bahasa, I can only say soto ayam and nasi goreng. That's it. Okay? It takes a lot of time to learn. Whereas for you, speaking in Indonesian is comfortable, but learning English is difficult. Then an event such as an exam can be stressful. But if you're prepared for the exam, that's coping, then it is not stressful. And if you have social support from your friends and family, you don't experience a negative effect of stress. And this is what Lazarus and Folkman found. So you have to look at the situational factor, personal factor, cognitive, appraisal, coping, and adaptational outcome. In terms of outcome, your social functioning, your morale, and your physiological health. And so cognitive appraisal include whether it's a threat, whether it's a harm, or whether it's a challenge that you can learn something. Coping is how do you manage with the situation. So you have to be problem focused and you have to focus on the emotion. So I will tell you the American theory that works, okay, and the assumption that have been verified in terms of human agency. We're not controlled by our genes, and our brain does not process like a computer. We have what we call agency. People who regard themselves as highly efficacious act, think, feel differently from those who perceive with low efficacy. They produce their own future rather than simply foretell it. So we create our future. We use our genes, our brain, and our environment. And the most important thing that you have to ask yourself, what do you want to achieve? What is your goal? Okay? And this is something you have to decide for yourself. So before people think, people observe themselves. And they have a sense of efficacy. And they evaluate themselves and they react to their situation. And so the best way to gain confidence or efficacy is performance outcome. If you succeed, then you have confidence. Second is modeling. By modeling, you can develop confidence. Third is by social support. And fourth is understanding your physiology and your background. And agency can measure by self-efficacy. So self-efficacy is a belief in the capability. It's not an ability. It's capacity plus ability. So you have the capacity to organize and execute a course of action to achieve a desired outcome. So self-efficacy is a generated capacity. So the most important is, what is your intention? What is your knowledge? What is your goal? So it's not good enough just to believe that you can achieve. You have to have skills, like driving. And you have to believe that you can drive in Jogja. I drove in Jogja and I got into an accident. Car hit me from behind. Okay, so I don't drive anymore. Okay. So I drove in Bali with all the motorcycles. I was too stressed. Okay, so now I take Grab. It's much more comfortable. Okay, social support. So my performance leads to an outcome. Okay? If it leads to a positive outcome, my efficacy goes up. If it leads to negative outcome, it goes down. So how do you increase self-efficacy? Of course, success and modeling, but there's another way, feedback. So you provide feedback, athletes, how they are doing, how they're reaching their goal, and the most important is social support. Social support makes you healthy, wealthy, and happy. But many people who are individualistic do not have social support. So social support is one of the most effective ways. So study 1, stress. So Bandura developed self-efficacy scale. So I talked to him. I said, you don't have any relational efficacy. In Asia, relationship is important. So how can you maintain a good relationship with your friends, your classmates, with your brothers and sisters, with your parents, with your relatives, and your professors? So this is a relational efficacy scale. And I have social support questionnaire. This is example of emotional support. They make me feel secure and comfortable. They know me and understand me. They're kind and warm, listen to my worries, console me when I'm in trouble, and give me appropriate advice. So Pak Agung translated all this into Bahasa, okay, from parents, friends, and teacher. And this is a result of path analysis. So life satisfaction is highly predicted by relational efficacy, which also predicts trust. But relational efficacy is increased by emotional support from parents and friends. And this can explain around 30–40% of the variance. And we did a study with Koreans. We want to examine stress symptoms on the right and stress management. In the middle, resiliency of efficacy and social support. Okay, so this is a path model that we developed. And this is the result we found. Social support from parents predicts resiliency of efficacy, which predicts stress management and stress symptoms. So efficacy is a mediating variable connecting the environmental factor to the outcome. This is Japanese universities, same pattern, very similar result. Then we had stress and life satisfaction. So stress is predicted negatively by life satisfaction. And academic efficacy and relational efficacy, two different efficacy, predicts life satisfaction. But both academic efficacy and relational efficacy is predicted by parents, teachers, and friends. Not only parents, but teachers are also important too. So how do you raise intelligence? It's very difficult, right? How do you raise efficacy? Provide them with support. Then they do better in school. And they're happy and they don't experience stress. And this is also for Japanese high school students. We get very similar result. And this is for depression. Depression, you're socially isolated. So you're sad and you have no energy and you avoid meeting people and places. And so we collected data from Korea. And this is the model that we had in terms of social support will increase their resiliency of efficacy, and which will impact depression and stress symptoms, okay? And so this is the result we got with CEST, okay? So you see social support from parents increase their efficacy, which increase their stress management and decrease their stress symptom, and depression. Okay? So efficacy is very important. If you don't have efficacy, you will not get good result. So Pak Agung translated depression and stress and efficacy scales, and he's now collecting data. So this is with Beck's depression inventory, almost identical. So managing stress does not reduce the stress symptoms. Efficacy does. Okay? You can see from this result. And this is Japanese result. Okay? Very similar pattern, resiliency of efficacy, lowering depression and stress. And this is a study with depression and well-being, Korean sample, using structural equational modeling. We believe social support from parents and friends, emotional, informational, will increase their resiliency and coping efficacy, which will decrease depression and stress and increase their life satisfaction and subjective well-being. And this is the result we got from male students. Friends did not predict an increase in self-efficacy, but parents increased their self-efficacy, which increased their well-being, lower their depression and stress. As you notice, the partial correlation is very high, 0.6, 0.5. Right? This is for female students. Social support from friends decreased depression and health, whereas self-efficacy decreased their well-being. So social support from parents is the most important in terms of reducing mental health problem, increasing their well-being, and also directly increasing their self-efficacy. Okay? So, secret to happiness and health. I'll just finish because we had a lot of interruptions, and I'll finish around 11:30 so we can have lunch. Okay? So I developed a social support questionnaire that Pak Agung, you translated. You should recognize them. So we collected data from elementary, junior, high school, 3,000. And this is the pattern that we have in terms of academic achievement and life satisfaction. So self-efficacy predicts high academic achievement and also life satisfaction. Social support from mother, father, teacher, friends are important. But for elementary school students, teacher is very important, increasing self-efficacy and life satisfaction. Father only increases self-efficacy. Okay? Now we go to middle school students. Now mothers increase self-efficacy and life satisfaction. And if you go to high school students, teachers no longer play a role. So teachers are important when children are young. When children are old, mothers are most important. Then in high school, father is important. Okay? And through increasing self-efficacy and life satisfaction, which increases academic grade. So if you want to improve the academic grade of the children, you provide them social support, which raises their efficacy. Yes. And so, does money buy happiness? So a TV station asked us, can money buy happiness? So we collected data from students, adults, elderly in a rich neighborhood, middle class neighborhood, and low income neighborhood. And this is a scale of happiness that we developed. And this is the result. So if you look on the right, for students, happiness is predicted by academic grade. So if you do well in their school, they're happy. But resiliency of efficacy is highly predictive. And emotional support predicts their happiness and efficacy. And their socioeconomic status means that they get higher, more emotional support. Younger students receive less emotional support. Okay? For adults, we get a different pattern. Happiness is predicted by their occupational success and also their children's success. You're happy when your children succeed and when you succeed. But the most important is resiliency of efficacy that predicts occupational achievement and your children's success and happiness. And monthly income influences just about 1% your happiness. Education increases your efficacy. Okay? So this is the multiple regression analysis that explains 60% of the variance. The most important for students is emotional support. Okay? So do you have any study that explains 60% of the variance? Not very much. Emotional support, then academic grade and resilient efficacy. Look at elderly. The most important is efficacy because they want to be independent. They want to take care of themselves. And when you're old and retired, social class is important. Money is important because you have to go to the hospital, give allowances to children and grandchildren. And emotional support is important. Then income. So income becomes important when you get old, when you're retired. Okay? And adults, emotional support is important, resiliency, and so forth. So this study from rich neighborhood, middle class, low income, income explains just 2%. Social support explains between 50 to 33%. Resiliency of efficacy explains significant amount also. Okay. So what we did is I conducted a study with millennials and Gen Z. As you know, the young people, are there any young people here? No, mostly, some. Are you millennial? Okay. They spend more time looking at the smartphone than talking, okay, right? Okay. So millennials and Gen Z, I call them the digital generation, okay? They grew up when the computer and smartphone was there. So even as a baby, they can use a smartphone, okay? So this is happiness, okay? So relational efficacy predicts happiness and trust. And trust predicts happiness. And social support, positivity, their academic grade predicts relational efficacy. Okay? And this is the goodness of fit. RMI has to be less than 0.5. NFF, adjusted goodness of fit, has to be above 0.7. It cannot be significant, and the chi-square. Okay? So this is a very good goodness of fit. Okay? So this is social support from friends. And this is social support online. Online means you have never met these people. It's an online community, and it has similar effect. But social support online does not increase relational efficacy because you don't know them, right? But it increases satisfaction, happiness, and it increases trust. Okay? So online community for young people like her is as important as real friends, right? Okay, so confirmation, okay. So this is a new, and so Pag Agung has a scale that we are looking at the young generation. So real relationship is important, but online is something added to existing relationship. So as you notice, the real friends is more powerful, okay, than online, but online increases trust, increases happiness, because young generation, they don't do everything. They have different communities, right? Close friends, work friends, and you get different, okay? So they're very sophisticated. I'm learning from my students in terms of their online communities that they're developing. And this is study number 3. We looked at personality, big 5, and we found conscientiousness is important. And we looked at work value of trust. So you can see relational efficacy influences work value of trust and happiness. And social support from friends increases relational efficacy and happiness directly. And conscientiousness, personality, very diligent students influence social support, trust, efficacy, and happiness. Okay? And grade influence your efficacy. So this one is online. We use social efficacy instead of relational efficacy. And you see online social support increases social support. Very similar. So the social efficacy is different. Relationship for people you know, social for. And so this is a multiple regressional analysis of students I collected in 2005, 2021, and 2022. So first study, 53% emotional support, self-efficacy. Similar to what we found. In first study, we found positivity to be the most predictive. Then social support, relational efficacy, and online support. In the third study, social support from friends, followed by conscientiousness, relational efficacy, are highly predictive. So there is a paradox called Easterliner paradox in terms of income, satisfaction, and happiness. So Daniel Kahneman, you may know him, he won the Nobel Prize in economics that challenges the decision making. So what he did is once he received the Nobel Prize, he developed the UN World Happiness Survey. So you can include Indonesia in the study. And so we will compare Indonesian result with the UN survey. And what he found is that what makes people happy and unhappy and connected to their life satisfaction. And he investigated Easterliner paradox. Richard Easterlin is the first economist who linked economic growth to happiness. According to economic growth, Indonesians should be miserable and Koreans should be happy. But we found the opposite. Indonesians are happy and Koreans are miserable. Why? Even though Koreans make a lot of money and a lot of young people are watching K-pop and K-drama. I don't know why. Korea has the highest divorce rate, highest suicide rate. 40% of young people live alone, and they have less than one children. So we have a lot of problems. They want to have sex, but they don't want to get married because they cannot buy a home and they cannot buy a car. And so they watch a lot of porn video. So Easterlin found that income increases within across culture, but over time the curve peaks and this is what happened. So Indonesia now, your economy is growing. So higher the income means happiness will grow. Because there are a lot of problems and there are a lot of things that you need. And money can get rid of all these problems. Healthcare, you need a house, you need air conditioning, and you need a smartphone. But once it reaches around 15, 20,000, it peaks. Money does not impact happiness. Okay? And the question is why? It should be a straight line. Why does it curve? And Kahneman points out happiness at the national level does not increase with wealth once the basic needs are satisfied. Once you have basic need, then the money does not happiness. If you ask people what they want most in life, majority say they want to be happy. However, most of us are working towards some other goal that is called money. We want to be happy, but we want to make more money. Kahneman contends happiness and satisfaction are two different things. Have you ever thought about it? He notes that happiness arises from momentary experience, our day-to-day experience that are spontaneous and fleeting, like having lunch with a family member, having a nice chat with a colleague. Okay? Satisfaction is what you achieve in terms of Scopus article. Okay? Or you become a full professor, you're satisfied. But am I happy being a full professor? Not really. It's something that happened. Satisfaction, in contrast, is retrospective and evaluative. It's a feeling built over time based on one's achievement, goal, and meeting others' expectation, income, wealth, and possession. Life satisfaction is measured by income, wealth, and possession. Happiness is measured by what I experience now. Who am I with? So he notes that satisfaction is correlated around 0.5 with happiness. That explains only about 25%. Okay? So what predicts and controls happiness, satisfaction, money and goal. Okay? So if you have money and if you have achieved, you're satisfied with your life. You have a house, you have a car, and you have a family. So I'm satisfied. I have everything that I need. Am I happy? Well, I'm not sure. What predicts happiness? Since I'm in Indonesia, now I'm happy because Indonesians are happy. Being around people we like and spending time with them makes us happy. It is a difference between experience of being happy versus happy about your life. Okay? They're very different concepts because satisfaction is a memory that is enduring, but feelings of happiness are momentary and is not stored in our memory. The psychological moment lasts 3 seconds. And we have 600,000 moments a month and 600 million moments in a lifetime. So we don't remember. Do you remember 600 million moments, everything you ate, everything you did 10 years ago? You don't remember them. And so this is the scale that we have. The dotted line is life satisfaction. The more money you make, more satisfied you are. But red, green, and blue means positive effect, not blue, stress-free. It peaks around median income. Once you're middle class, more money does not make you happier. What does money do? Gets rid of the problems. Okay? Attain the goal that you want. So I'm a professor, I publish, I have a house, I have a nice car, I'm satisfied. Am I happy? Not really. Why do you think I'm in Indonesia? Because I want to do something productive, meaningful, and contribute. Okay? And so happiness arises from the experience that leaves people feeling good at the moment with the people that you like. For those who are focused on long-term goals and achievement, that provides satisfaction. They do not invest much time in spontaneous experience and socializing. People ask me, what do I do? I work in my hotel. Why don't you tour? Why don't you have dinner with us? I'm sorry, I'm busy. I have to prepare the slides. Okay. So I'm satisfied with the slide, but last night I was working all night. Okay. So I was not happy. So you have to make a choice. Do I want to be happy and make a bad presentation? Or do I want to be satisfied and make a good presentation? I'd rather be satisfied. Okay. And so he concludes, people do not maximize happiness, but maximize their satisfaction with their lives, and which lead them in a completely different direction than maximizing happiness. When we work toward our goal and aspiration, it can prevent us from fully experiencing happiness and being with the families and friends that we like. He found that overall job satisfaction did not correlate to enjoyment of the job. Are you happy being a professor or a lecturer? Then we have to examine, can you be satisfied? We can be satisfied with our career even if we don't enjoy the day-to-day task. So how do you spend your day? Do you have experiences with people that you like? I'm sorry you're stuck with me listening to my lecture. Our career is satisfying when it seems to be going in the right direction so we can reach our goal. Even if we enjoy day-to-day activities, we will not be satisfied if the job is not going in the right direction or reaching our goal. He conducted a study with Gallup organization with 450,000 surveys. He has a lot of money, okay, funded by funding agency, and daily survey of 1,000 random sample. They would complete the survey every day. Okay? Results indicate that emotional well-being measured by emotional experience and life evaluation are different. So income and education are closely associated with evaluation, but health, caregiving, loneliness were strong predictive daily life emotions. As income rose, evaluation, life satisfaction rose. However, happiness stopped increasing at around 75,000. So low income increases unhappiness and it multiplies emotional pain. Okay? If you have low income, it leads to divorce, poor health, and being alone. High income is associated with life satisfaction, but not happiness for developing countries and for high income earners. So this difference is found for the self. Why? Because there is two self, me versus I. So in terms of me, it's physical at the present, and I compare myself with others. I is someone who evaluates, who directs. So when I play a piano, me is playing piano. I is teaching, telling me what to do. So I am talking, but me is talking, but I tells me what to say. So I is the executive function, and me is the hardware. Okay? So me can experience happiness, but I evaluate. Are you working? Are you reaching your goal? Okay? So I is the evaluative self that is responsible for satisfaction long term. Me is someone who experienced their today. So even though we change physically, personality, and biologically, it is the I that keeps the integration. Okay? Even though there are changes, I creates a sense of coherence. So one thing we have to know, time is a great equalizer because everyone has 24 hours. No one has 25 or 18. And what do? Depending on our goal, we allot different amount of time. If you're focused on experiencing self, and you enjoyed a vacation in Hawaii or Bali for 1 week, if you extend the vacation to 2 weeks with similar experience, then your vacation should be twice as good, right? Based on the experience. But you remember the same, whether you have 1 week or 2 weeks. Your experience is 2 weeks, but you remember it as having a wonderful holiday. So in terms of your memory, it doesn't matter if it's 1 week or 2 weeks, right? In terms of experience, of course, 2 weeks is better. So, for remembering self, the amount of time spent has very little impact on the story. What is important is the evaluation. Okay? So, how do you spend your day? Is this you in a cubicle? Or is this you? Okay. So that's why you're happy. And what do? How do you spend your life? Working toward retirement? Forgetting about relationship, enjoying life, going on holidays? I think it looks like me. So, but it is a remembering self that makes decisions. Okay? And we don't make choices based on our experiences, based on our immediate memories, but our goals. When we make choices about the future, it involves our memory. Although the self experiences continuously, memories are stored in stories, like in Javanese stories. And stories are recorded, and the ending is the most important, not the journey. Okay? And that is the difference between satisfaction and happiness. When you graduate from university, what do you remember? You graduated Sigma Cum Laude. You have very good grade, and you had scholarship, and you did well. Do you remember everything you did during the 4 years? All the partying, all the socializing, going out, meeting friends. You just remember, oh, I did very well. I learned a lot. And that's the problem. We don't remember all the happy moments. We remember what we achieved, okay? And how other people evaluate you, and whether you got a job at a good university. Okay? That makes us satisfied. But that doesn't make us happy. We don't remember what made us happy. But it is all stored in our brain. So this is the decision that we make. That's why people focus on making money. Because it's concrete. Buying a car, buying a home, it's concrete. It's a goal. But does it make you happy? Maybe 1 or 2 months. So when I bought a new car, I was very happy. After a year, I don't even notice. I don't even wash the car. It's a luxury car, but it's just a car. It takes me to my home office. And I spent how many years buying that car, that stupid car? Or even a house. I have to fix it, clean it up, pay mortgage, pay taxes. I should have bought a smaller house, right? And this is also a difference. So why are Koreans unhappy? So in US, how I view myself is important. In Korea, how my mother views me is the most important. So if my mother loves me and believes I'm successful, I work hard. Study 14, 16 hours a day. Remember social support from parents and friends? That increases self-efficacy. That increases grade, happiness, and life satisfaction. But what if these others are social standards? Around 60% of Korean women get cosmetic surgery. So Korean women are not naturally beautiful. Our cosmetic surgery technology is wonderful. And Korean women spend 1 hour every day putting on cosmetics. And Korean cosmetic companies are famous. But you date a girlfriend and she takes her makeup off, it's boring. Okay. So people who are miserable use social standard to judge. So most in Korea, if you weigh more than 50 kilograms, you're fat. I don't think you have to worry in Java. Most people are thin. Okay? 50 kilograms, you have to be very thin. And if you look at all the K-pop, they cannot weigh more than 50 kilograms. So they're on diet 10 years. They have to exercise. If you don't graduate from the best university, you're a failure. So that's why Koreans are miserable. Social standard is too strict. You have to work for Samsung. You have to graduate from Gajah or UI. Otherwise, you're a failure. Okay? And that means only 2% of the population can be successful. Indonesians, the good thing is you don't care. You have hijab, so you don't have to worry about your hair and makeup, and Indonesians are very flexible. And they're accepting. Koreans are very strict. And so one study that is interesting, I'll conclude at 11:30, Harvard study of adult development. They tracked 268 Harvard men and 456 low-income Boston, rural inner city. And they studied their life experiences, medical records, DNA, MRI, brain, and everything. And they did this study for 85 years. The longest longitudinal study in the world. And they wanted to find out what made people happy, healthy, live long. What do you think? If you attended my lecture yesterday, you would know the answer. Relationship. And which American theory, psychology theory, would predict this? American psychological theory are individualistic. They don't talk about relations. So when they saw this result, they were shocked. Because psychological theories cannot explain the result. Whereas Indonesian, you said, of course. Yeah, of course. We know. So why are you learning American theory? Teaching it to Indonesian students and confusing them. So the current research director said the surprising finding is that our relationship and how happy we are in our relationship has a powerful influence on our health. The people who were most satisfied in their relationship at age 50 were the healthiest and happiest 30 years later. Those who are healthy, wealthy, live long are those who are satisfied with their relationship, friends, and community. The opposite was the case for smoking, drinking, and loneliness. Loneliness is as bad as drinking and smoking, those people who are addicted to it. So these are people who were studied over one generation, and their children and their wives were also involved in the current study. And George Valiant, the current director, found that financial success depends on warmth of relationship and not intelligence. So if you have a good relationship, you make money, not the reverse. Okay? And those who scored highest measurements on warm relationship earned average of double compared to those who did not. Okay? So people who had warm relationship made more money. There were no significant difference in terms of income, of IQ of more than 150 versus 110. So IQ does not predict income. Okay? And men who had warm childhood relationship with their mother earned more than $87,000 than when their mother was uncaring. That's double income. Men who had poor childhood relationship are more likely to develop dementia. So if your mother was cold, you have to worry about dementia. Follow? Curse. It's not curse. Actually, it's your brain. So late in their professional life, men's boyhood relationship with the mother, but not the father, was associated with effectiveness at work. If they had a good relationship with mother, they had worked better. The warmth of childhood relationship with mothers had no significant bearing in life satisfaction. So these are a different thing. And the warmth of childhood relationship with father was related to lower anxiety, greater enjoyment of vacation, and higher life satisfaction. So how do you spend your day? In a hotel, preparing for the birthday. So these are 6 predictors of health. Physical activity, absence of alcohol and smoking, being able to cope with, you better stop smoking based on your response, and enjoying healthy weight and stable marriage. And for inner city men, education was an important factor because they are less likely to smoke, eat sensibly, and drink in moderation. When the study began, nobody cared about empathy or attachment. But the key to healthy aging is relationship, relationship, relationship. American psychology did not look at attachment, did not look at relationship. In conclusion, American psychology is useless. We have to develop better one, okay? Useless, yes, sir. We have evidence. The people who were happiest, who stayed healthiest as they grew old, and who lived the longest were the people who had the warmest connection with other people. So this is something Indonesians have. But if you focus on money, you will lose it. And we thought good relationship would make us happier. But we were surprised that relationship actually predicted who would live longer and who would grow old in a healthier way. So happiness, health, and long life, good relationship. And when we gather everything we knew about a person at age of 50, it wasn't their cholesterol level that predicted how they were doing. It was how satisfied they were in the relationship. The people who were most satisfied had the healthiest life at the age of 80. Good relationship doesn't just protect our body, they protect your brain. They connect the neurons. Research also rejected the idea people's personalities are fixed. They change. They change every year. They can change, especially during old age. Those who kept warm relationship got to live longer, happier, and the loners died. Loneliness kills. Okay. At least 10 years early than people who had a good relationship. And so, how do you spend your day? And so, I'll stop here since lunch is here and 11:30. Then I'll go over business and leadership in terms of.